Welcome. My name is Dave Nemazie, and I'll be serving as the MC for the first ever virtual commencement of the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, also known as UMCES. Today, we will be celebrating researchers and faculty with several awards, hearing a message from our keynote speaker, the award-winning science writer, Lisa Palmer, and proudly honoring our UMCES graduates. If you're watching this live through Zoom, which we're recording, we encourage you to use the chat feature throughout the program to send out encouraging notes to your friends, colleagues, and family members. This program is also being live streamed on Facebook. Should you have any problems throughout the program, please email support@windrosemedia.com. That is support@windrosemedia.com. It is now my great pleasure to introduce the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science President, Peter Goodwin, to begin our 2020 commencement ceremony. President Goodwin is an internationally known expert in ecosystem restoration and enhancement of river, wetland, and estuarine systems. As part of UMCES's longtime role to advise the state of Chesapeake Bay management, he serves on the Governor's Chesapeake Bay Cabinet and is a member of the Maryland Commission on Climate Change. Additionally, he serves as the Vice Chancellor for Environmental Sustainability for the University System of Maryland. Please welcome President Goodwin.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 UMCES commencement ceremony. As part of our first virtual commencement, people are joining us this afternoon to celebrate the accomplishments of these graduates from across Maryland, the United States, Asia, Australia, and Europe. Graduates, please take a moment to reflect on those that have helped you reach this watershed moment in your life, your family, your friends, and your mentors. These are, of course, extraordinary times. You have reached this milestone in the midst of a global pandemic. You have risen to the challenge as the entire University System of Maryland continued to function, but in the virtual world. As you were striving to finish, it meant those long final debates with your committee members, completing classes, defending your dissertation, all moved to Zoom. Filing the paperwork and submission, all achieved remotely. Your adaptability and perseverance to get the job done is remarkable. We are joined this afternoon by several of the regents of the University System of Maryland. I can see on my screen Regent Gossett, Regent Rao, and I know that there are others. We would like to thank all of our regents for their dedication and leadership to the unique mission of UMCES. We also welcome our keynote speaker, Lisa Palmer, who will share her advice on getting science into the world. We are also honored this afternoon to have the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, the world-renowned geneticist, Dr. Joanne Boffman, with us, and Dr. Tim Canty, who heads the University System of Maryland's nationally ranked graduate program in environmental science, UMCES. And you will also be hearing special messages from other friends of UMCES throughout the program. I would like to take a moment to recognize the committee whose efforts have made today possible. The team coalesced quickly to make commencement a virtual reality in a new abnormal time. It is a well-represented committee, but I wanted to focus on the two graduate students, Christina Gothel and Christine Knaus, who were determined to ensure that this ceremony honors their colleagues in the great UMCES tradition. So let us now begin. Welcome to the UMCES commencement for 2020.
Thank you, President Goodwin. It is now my great pleasure to introduce the Governor of Maryland, the Honorable Lawrence Hogan, Jr., who will be providing congratulatory remarks.
I'm Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, and on behalf of the people of a proud state, I want to extend our most sincere congratulations to the class of 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has required all of us to make incredible sacrifices. This is certainly not the graduation day that any of you anticipated or hoped for, but it in no way lessens your accomplishments or diminishes your achievements. Instead, I hope that this moment in our history serves as a reminder to all of you to always expect the unexpected, and don't get thrown off course when obstacles appear from out of nowhere. In life, there are going to be things that you can plan for and work toward, and there will be some challenges that you will see coming, but there are also going to be things that take you completely by surprise, things that will hit you from out of nowhere, and that will test your strength, your will, and your character. It's during those times of adversity and uncertainty that it is more important than ever to remember to stay true to who you are, keep people around you who make you a better person, and keep you grounded. And always stay positive. Together, we are going to defeat this deadly virus. And because of the talent and dedication of the members of the class of 2020, I am incredibly optimistic that the state of Maryland will soon return stronger and better than ever. Congratulations, stay safe, and may God bless you all.
Thank you, Governor Hogan, for those heartfelt remarks. The Board of Regents of the University System of Maryland are a highly dedicated group of volunteers who spend countless hours providing guidance and oversight to UMCES and the 11 other institutions within the university system. Since being appointed to the board in 2013, Regent Robert Rao has been a strong supporter of UMCES. He started his career at the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, working on stormwater control, and is now the principal of an engineering firm that bears his name.
I'm Robert Rao. I'm proud to bring you greetings and congratulations from the University System of Maryland Board of Regents for your academic achievements. I also want to recognize and express our gratitude to Dr. Goodwin and the incredible UMCES team of scientists, researchers, educators, and administrators. We're celebrating today in a very special and unique way. We've all heard the stories of the disappointment of canceled graduations, proms, championships, vacations, weddings, and the list continues on and on. Fortunately, your graduation ceremony was not canceled, but out of necessity, it had to be modified to conform with the rules of these difficult times. The traditional graduation ceremony and walk to receive your diploma has now been replaced by this virtual ceremony. But the cyber commencement does not change what's really important. You're still joined by your family and friends. Your degree is not changed by how you received your diploma. And the ceremony does not alter or diminish the well-deserved recognition of your hard work and academic achievements. I'm sure your diploma will be framed and proudly displayed at your home or at your future place of work. Your academic achievements are not, however, defined by a framed document. Your scholastic achievements are best defined by what you choose to do after your diploma has been framed. Whether you decide to continue your education, do research, teach, or work in the private sector, make sure you take full advantage of the exceptional education you've received from the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science. You've had the benefit of an education provided by renowned environmental scientists, world-class educators, and a leading university system in environmental research. The day you received your diploma may be remembered by the ceremony. Your education will be remembered by a lifetime of achievement made possible by the hard work you devoted to receiving your prestigious degree. Congratulations and enjoy an exciting career in whatever path you choose.
Thank you, Regent Rao, for those greetings. Representing the Chancellor of the University System of Maryland, we are pleased to have Dr. Joanne Boffman with us here today. As a board-certified medical geneticist, Dr. Boffman has been a professor in the University of Maryland Baltimore School of Medicine and Dental School, their Vice President for Research and Development, Dean of their graduate school, and Vice President of Academic Affairs. Just prior to becoming the Senior Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs at the University System of Maryland, she was the CEO of the American Society of Human Genetics. Please welcome Dr. Boffman.
On behalf of Chancellor Perman and the entire University System of Maryland, I'm pleased to join you all today as we honor these outstanding graduates and the newest member of the UMCES growing family of alumni. Let me also thank Dr. Goodwin for his leadership of this important and very impactful institution. There's so much that I want to say to you today, but I'm going to try and summarize it fairly quickly. First, I want to offer my condolences because we have to do it this way. We can't be together and, in fact, shake hands with you and congratulate you face to face. I also want to express my admiration to each and every one of you that under these unimaginable circumstances, this time of total uncertainty, you have persevered. The resilience, the adaptability, and in fact, the sheer tenacity that you have shown will serve you well in your career and in your life. And above all, I want to say congratulations. Nothing, not months of remote learning or adjustments to lab or field work that you've had to do, and certainly not a move to a virtual commencement. None of that can diminish in the slightest what you have achieved here at UMCES and the value of the education that you have received. UMCES itself holds a very special place among the USM institutions. As a leading research center, it helps manage the world's environmental resources, is a catalyst for partnerships, engaging talent from across our 12 institutions to generate the scientific knowledge Maryland needs so much to make a sustainable and vibrant future. As a hub of interdisciplinarity, it also produces graduates who will be critical to solving the complex environmental challenges out there in the world. And since UMCES stretches across Maryland, from the Eastern Shore to the Appalachians, it engages with communities throughout the state with outreach programs and wide-ranging community service. In so many ways, UMCES and you, its graduates, show us what is best about public higher education. We're so proud to support this institution, proud of the work it does, and today, proud of you as its most recent graduates. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Boffman, for those great remarks and for being such a steadfast friend of UMCES. Traditionally, each year, UMCES gives awards for outstanding faculty accomplishments at our commencement ceremony, the Outstanding Faculty Mentor Award, and the President's Award for Excellence in Application of Science. Additionally, this year, we introduce a new award, the President's Award for Outstanding Research Support. We will now hear from the nominators of these three awards, Dr. Mario Tamburi, graduate student Claire Nemes, and President Goodwin.
Hi, my name is Mario Tamburi, and I'm a faculty member at the Chesapeake Biological Lab. It's with great pleasure that I get to announce the inaugural President's Award for Outstanding Research Support. And this award goes out to recognize the professional achievements and accomplishments of our FRAs, or faculty research assistants. And the first winner of this award is Janet Barnes from the Chesapeake Biological Lab. This first image on the left here tells you just about everything you need to know about Janet. This is from 1985, when Janet was the first female mate on any research vessel in UMCES. She's the one with the back to the camera doing all the hard work while others are standing around and watching. I wish I had time to go through a complete list of all Janet's achievements and experiences over the years, but I'll just give you a few highlights. Janet started at CBL in the summer of 1978. In 1986, she helped start the Solomons Harbor Monitoring Project, which continues to this day. In the late 90s, Janet also worked with the NSF Antarctic program, coordinating logistics and science support in the Antarctic. In the early 2000s, Janet also started working with the Coastal and Estuarine Research Federation, or CERF, as a chief operating officer. When I started at CBL almost 20 years ago now, we brought Janet on to help us with the development of the Alliance for Coastal Technologies, or ACT. More recently, in 2008, when we put together the Maritime Environmental Resource Center, we brought Janet over to help as the research coordinator for that program, where she does both hands-on science as well as management of the project and coordinating with private sector and with agencies. Janet has always been a mentor and a positive role model for all FRAs at UMCES, in particular young women at CBL. Janet has always shown a genuine scientific curiosity and analytical thinking, and always goes above and beyond with the support of our research as well as support of the broader UMCES community. I consider myself very lucky to have her part of my research team and to consider her a close friend. So thank you, Janet, for all you've done for UMCES, and congratulations on this award.
Good afternoon. My name is Claire Nemazie, and I am a PhD student and one of the UMCES Graduate Student Council representatives for the Appalachian Laboratory. It is my honor today to introduce the 2020 Graduate Student Council Outstanding Faculty Mentor Award. This award was started by the GSC in 2018 as a way for students to recognize faculty who go above and beyond in their mentorship roles. This year, we saw a large increase in the number of nominations, which speaks to the mentorship level of our faculty here at UMCES. We are proud to present this year's award to Dr. Matt Fitzpatrick, Associate Professor at the Appalachian Lab. Every nomination for Dr. Fitzpatrick commented on his open door policy, which characterizes his approach to mentorship, if not the need for a better lock. One nominator writes, "It doesn't matter if you are an orphan student at the AL or a passing groundskeeper, Matt is incredibly generous with his time and always willing to chat." Another writes, "The collaboration in Dr. Fitzpatrick's group is characterized by mutual respect and trust, which he facilitates through his open-minded, supporting, and empathetic attitude." Matt's helpfulness extends far beyond his R wizardry. He's often our trusted go-to person for professional and personal advice, insights into the mysterious inner workings of academia, and thoughtful discussions about everything from spatial statistics to amateur astronomy. Matt's deep commitment to training the next generation of scientists is reflected in the fact that he's volunteered as advisor for several students whose primary advisors have left. He's genuinely invested in the entire grad student community and is dedicated to supporting the well-being and progress of his mentees in whatever form that takes for each person. For these reasons and more, the GSC is delighted to present this year's Outstanding Faculty Mentor Award to Dr. Matt Fitzpatrick. Congratulations, Matt.
President's Award for Science Application was initiated and endowed by President Bosch, highlighting an artist who used their work for the benefit of promoting environmental awareness. The winner of the 2020 award is Professor Mike Wilberg. The artist this year is Don Drew from the Eastern Shore, well known for his work with copper, and he designed the piece behind me based on Dr. Wilberg's resume. Oysters are iconic in Maryland and critically important to the culture and the recovery of Chesapeake Bay. Building on the rich tradition of UMCES in fisheries management, Professor Wilberg was invited to lead the first ever oyster stock assessment for the state of Maryland. The assessment was conducted collaboratively with scientists from DNR and resulted in estimates of the abundance and level of sustainable exploitation. As important as these findings are to guide policy, the relationships that this effort built with DNR and others may be more long-lasting. This work, along with the innovations of Drs. North, Plow, Gray, and Miller, and Stephanie's effort with the hatchery, allow UMCES to continue developing the scientific knowledge base for aquaculture and the recovery of oysters in Maryland. Dr. Wilberg is recognized as an international expert on stock assessments. A few highlights. He's technical advisor to the Mid-Atlantic Fishery Management Council, the International Whaling Commission, and South Africa in developing their fisheries management plans. For our graduating students at UMCES, you have learned it is not just about doing great science. It is how you communicate that science to be effective. If you ever have the opportunity to observe Professor Wilberg testifying before the legislature, Congress, or in public meetings, take it. He is the textbook example of where the delivery of scientific facts stop and where value judgment starts in complex, contentious environmental issues. Mike, on behalf of the UMCES community, congratulations and very well deserved.
Fabulous presentations. Thank you to all the nominators. Now let's hear from each of the awardees. First, I'd like to call on Janet Barnes.
Thank you, President Goodwin, for recognizing the importance of creating this award. I'm glad that the substantial contributions of FRAs to UMCES research and outreach will be acknowledged into the future. Thank you to Mario Tamburi, Walter Boynton, and Tom Miller for nominating me. Mario and Walter, a special thanks for believing in and supporting me all of these years. I thank the Faculty Senate Awards Subcommittee, which is new, Jerry Frank, Mike Wilberg, Mark Castro and Victoria Coles. Jerry, a huge thanks to you for what you've done to make this award possible and a reality. As always, one is only as good as their team. Currently, Mario, Catherine Davis, Marty Gettrick, Taylor and Amanda Schick, and Martin Carroll. Thanks to my husband, Jim King, for his unwavering support. And finally, thanks to my parents for always supporting and never questioning my love of all things outdoors. They have passed on, but stay close in spirit. And thanks for all the chat things I've seen up there. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Now let's hear from Dr. Fitzpatrick.
Okay. Well, thank you. I can't say how much this award means to me. I'm truly honored to have received it. So thanks to those who nominated me and supported my nomination. And I'd like to say, as a mentor, it's always really hard to know if you're doing a good job or giving the best advice, and it's something I think about a lot. So if I've been a good mentor, it's for two reasons. One, I've had good students that have made my job really easy. So thank you to my students who have worked so hard to do the best that they can do. And thanks to the mentors I've had throughout my life that have taught me how to be a good mentor.
Thank you, Dr. Fitzpatrick. Now let's hear from Dr. Wilbur.
Thank you very much. I'm really appreciative of the recognition of the award this year. I'd really like to start by thanking all of my grad students and other members of my lab who I think all worked on some aspect of oysters during the time here. I'd also like to thank the funders of the work that we've done, which have primarily been Maryland DNR and the National Science Foundation. And then lastly, I'd like to thank all my other UMCES colleagues who have helped along with this work and have helped me learn about oysters, which is something that I didn't know anything about before I came to Maryland. So thank you.
Well, congratulations to all of this year's award winners. You really capture who we are as an institution. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce the 2020 keynote speaker, Lisa Palmer. Lisa is an award-winning environmental and science journalist who joins the George Washington University School of Media and Public Affairs as the inaugural National Geographic Professor for Science Communication in January of this year. She mentors students in science communication and teaches courses in building compelling narratives around the science. Lisa has an extensive background in science communications. She has spent the last 4 years working for the National Socio-Environmental Synthesis Center, or SSINC, serving as a senior fellow in socio-environmental understanding, where she wrote extensively about science, the environment, agriculture, and sustainability. Previously, she was a public policy scholar at the Woodrow Wilson Center in DC, where she conducted research on global food security, resilience, and policies related to sustainable agriculture, which resulted in her book, Hot, Hungry Planet: The Fight to Stop a Food Crisis in the Face of Climate Change, which chronicles her travels around the world and the urgent innovations needed to feed a growing population. She has been a fellow at the Vermont School Environmental Law Center, the Knight Center for Specialized Journalism, and a grantee of the Solutions Journalism Network. Her writing has been featured in The Guardian, The New Republic, Nature, Yale E360, Slate, New York Times, Scientific America, amongst others. In 2018, Lisa was awarded a Rockefeller Foundation Bellagio Center residency on Science for Development. She is a professional member of the Science Society of Environmental Journalists, the National Association of Science Writers, and the DC Science Writers Association. She's a graduate of Boston University and Simmons College in Boston. She lives in Maryland near the banks of the Severn River and her backyard borders a riparian forest that is protected area for its sensitive streams and ponds that provide critical habitat for terrestrial wildlife species. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, everybody. It's really nice to be here, and to the many friends and supporters of the University of Maryland's Center for Environmental Science, and to the families and friends of those graduating today, to those receiving master's and doctoral degrees today, just a warm welcome. To you, Dr. Peter Goodwin, thanks so much for the kind introduction and for inviting me to speak today. It's really an honor to be here among the scholars of this nationally recognized and eminent interdisciplinary institution. As Dr. Goodwin said, I'm coming to you from my home in Maryland. I'm situated right on the shores of the Severn River. My backyard is Sullivan's Cove. It's a protected area where I can regularly watch a great blue heron kind of swoop down through the rare Atlantic white cedars there to an adjacent tidal pond. I'll watch some terrapins sitting on a log, sunning themselves, and hear a fox or even a barred owl make their presence known sometime throughout the day. So over the past 2 decades of working as a science journalist and as an author, and now as a professor of science communication, my work would be nothing if it were not for you scientists and those among you who have taken the time to explain your research and to tell me your stories and talk to me about the work that you do. I think that you've sat next to me on airplanes or in boats. You've told me about the communities and the decision makers and the policies that you advise. And so thank you. That's been very important. And as you begin your careers now and to guide communities, guide the state of Maryland or our nation and the world toward a more sustainable future, I encourage you to set us along a different path in the realm of science communication, one that's different from what we've seen recently. I think we're well prepared to do so. There is no shortage of wisdom going around during this commencement season, so let me keep it simple here with some of the best advice that I can provide to encourage you towards the civil discourse and to inform decisions on environmental problems. I want to encourage you to be the troops of the willing. Find ways for your data, for your analyses and projections and tools to support decisions in natural resource management, and find ways to communicate it in a way that's relatable. Tell the stories in such a way that can help guide decisions and the choices we make, and guide others on the appropriate use of that information as well. In the pursuit of science communication, be the troops of the willing. Don't worry about the criticism you may receive from your colleagues because an interview you did with a journalist or a presentation you gave to a state or local government may not include the full range of nuances that would appear in your peer-reviewed journal article. But be willing to be understood by non-specialists and people who are outside your field of study. That's critical to sort of breaking down that barrier of communication. I'm often reminded as well that science and journalism are parallel pursuits. Both have in common this common mission to explain very complicated things, subject matter, both simply and accurately. Both are practices of inquiry. We both examine information and we write about it. Both are built on individual curiosity. And practitioners of both science and journalism are dedicated to pursuing knowledge for the public good. Both also have well-developed traditions and professional structures. So sometimes these strong traditions can put us at odds. So get familiar with these structures so you can be prepared. I also want to encourage you to be the trusted source. So what does that mean exactly? Well, it means that you do your work and make it available as a service to others. And this could mean making a web page that fully explains your overall research program, how it could inform policy, or photos that show what you are doing in the field or the lab, or a map that provides data and information. It means that you take a little bit of extra time for a journalist, take time for that phone call, or for a community member, or for a decision maker to help them connect the dots from your scholarship to the environmental problem at hand. It also means that faculty and leaders here I urge you to value public communication in the pursuit of tenure and evaluations. What gets measured gets done. I also am reminded of a quote that I think is pertinent in this realm. Service is what connects us to one another, to our neighbors, to our communities, to our countries. It reminds us that we are not simply individuals living isolated lives, but that we are woven together. I think two aspects of that quote are meaningful about being the trusted source of information. One is this concept of connectedness. And you UMCES graduates today and you faculty, you are now all connected in this common pursuit of knowledge. You know, I'm even connected to you in my participation right now. I mean, your lives are interconnected with each other and interwoven with this impact you've all had on each other during your time as scholars and also during these last few months of pandemic. And those threads that connect you all, those threads that connect through your scholarship to the people and out to the communities for outreach, and to other scholars who may find it meaningful, those threads will be taken from this moment and they will continue to be drawn out and pulled out and lengthened as you move into the world. I think that greater impact each of you make in your work can help the next person down the line. And so as you did in your thesis, you will also do that in your jobs and continued professional development in your future. You will stretch. And I encourage you to stretch as far as you can to earn that role as trusted source. And being the trusted source also means that you will take on opportunities to connect your work to others. As you develop this longer term plan for engagement, just as you do a research program, I urge you to approach it with a vision towards service. This service has benefits. So what's the upside? Well, you get to be creative, and there's no one way to do it. And a variety of people and organizations and agencies will benefit from your research. And I urge you to find, some authentic way to reach them. Just as you do with your scholarship, think outside the box on how you might approach a public engagement. And think about things that you are already doing. If you're working at an academic institution, you'll probably train students and postdocs, so that might be a part of your work. Look for opportunities to engage with other researchers outside your discipline, or give a seminar in a different department. Tap into existing community programs. They're often looking for fresh ideas or expert support, so partner with them to see how you can translate your science. The more you practice, the easier it gets. And look for ways to maximize the societal benefit. Of course, now with Zoom, we can visit virtually anywhere. High school students or undergraduates classes. And so think about how and what you can do to reach more people, particularly those with less access. And this, maybe this means focusing on training educators or through commentaries in the news media. And so finally, I encourage you most of all to be brave. And by that, I mean, and this may sound counterintuitive, but I mean, don't worry about nailing the perfect science communication product. In fact, don't even think about it. In your field of environmental science, you are rewarded for being as precise as possible. And therefore, you use terms that are as precise as possible, specialized terms that people outside your field see as jargon or confuse with other common terms that they use in their line of work. Sometimes you can be so precise in your communication with colleagues and so on that it is the most imprecise of all, because no one knows what you're talking about. So think about ways that you can just shed that a little bit and give yourself more permission to have freedom. Finally, I think there are many people out there, maybe even some of your colleagues here, who know exactly what they want to be. They want to be a professor, or be a researcher, or be someone who publishes in Nature or Science. And then there are people here who know what they want to do. So if you catch yourself daydreaming about what you want to be, stop and think about it, and think instead about what you want to change. About what you want your work, about how you want your work to enter into public discourse. So think about how and what you can use, whatever you do in your best in science, to make the world better. So once you do all of that, all of those other steps towards making your decisions about your career get a whole lot easier. Congratulations, UMCES graduates. I'm really happy for you.
Lisa, thank you so much for those inspirational remarks, while we all recognize now more than ever the importance of translating scientific information for broad audiences. This year, Dr. Tim Canty, Associate Research Professor at the University of Maryland, College Park, joined the Marine Estuarine Environmental Sciences Graduate Program as its director. His research focuses on air quality in the Mid-Atlantic region to develop successful air pollution reduction strategies using the best available science. Most recently, he has been collaborating with researchers at the National Institute of Health to understand how pollution exposure impacts fetal development and birth outcomes. Dr. Canty will address the graduates.
Thank you, and thank you for the introduction. I was reflecting on my almost first year with MEIS, and the first thing that came to mind was, wow, not what I expected. But I don't think anybody could have expected some of these challenges we're facing. What was also unexpected to me, and which I really appreciate, is the tremendous amount of support and kindness people have shown, and patience, as myself and Tammy and Hong have gotten up to speed with really understanding the operations of the MEIS program. And as we've adapted to this new working environment, but also what I greatly appreciate is the support and kindness of Ken and Sandy during this transition. I really do appreciate everyone's help to get us to this point. Graduates, congratulations. This is a very interesting time. And as I acknowledge the support that I received, I hope you take this time to acknowledge the support you've received to get to this point. None of us work without support. And I think behind the vast majority of students today is a network of people who have helped get them to this point. And for families, if this is the first scientist in your family, my sympathy can be a challenge, understanding their use of the English language, but just be proud. What's also surprised me during this time is how much the environment has improved. We've seen at this time that folks in Kathmandu, India, for the very first time, have been able to see Mount Everest. Water quality has improved in parts of the world, but with these improvements has come a steep human cost. So now we have a scientific problem to solve. How do we realize this vision of what the environment could be like while economies are recovering? I don't know the answer to that. What I do know is scientists, we have skills to bring to the table to fix this problem, but we can't compartmentalize. We can't say that marine issues are the problems of marine scientists and that atmospheric issues are the problems of atmospheric scientists. These are problems that we as people need to collaborate on and solve, but we as people with our specific skill sets to work collaboratively, holistically, and across boundaries, and not just do science for science sake, but to do this science for humanity's sake. Now is a vital time. We cannot wait any longer, not that we have before. And I think more than any program that I've been associated with, MEIS is uniquely situated to work with end users, policymakers, constituencies, the scientific community to bridge these gaps. Excuse me. You've worked hard to get to this point. But I have to say, some of the hardest work, but most rewarding work is yet to come. If this were easy, everyone would do it. It's not easy. We need you as the new scientific community to take your seat at the table, but not only that, to put on the mantle of leadership. You've received unique, powerful training to get you to this point, but it's you who really got to this point. You develop these skills, you internalize these skills. We need you now to take these skills to help solve these problems that so far we as a community have not been able to solve. Congratulations, and it's time to really now roll up your sleeves and get to work. Best of luck.
Thank you, Dr. Canty, for those remarks. Everyone now knows why we are so pleased that you're the MEIS director. Dr. Larry Sanford has been serving as the Vice President for Education at the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science for the past 5 years, while maintaining an active research program focused on sediment transport and physical oceanography, with a special interest in interactions between fluid flow and estuarine ecology. And throughout this whole time of serving as a vice president, he still maintains a very active group of graduate students. Dr. Sanford will present the candidates for degrees.
Welcome, graduates, families, and friends. As Dave said, my name is Larry Sanford, and it's my privilege to serve as UMCES Vice President for Education and its Chief Academic Officer. This occasion has been one of my favorites every year as we have celebrated the accomplishments of our amazing students. Normally at this point, I would introduce each student, their advisor would tell us a bit about them, they'd be formally hooded, and there would be a flurry of photos before moving on to the next graduate. This kind of personal attention is a hallmark of the UMCES graduate experience, from matriculation to commencement. From day one, our students work directly with faculty in the lab or in the field, conducting research side by side and often learning from each other. I am very proud to be part of an institution that nurtures this kind of relationship and recognizes it in a special way at commencement. But this year is different. We cannot be together in person, which saddens me greatly. However, we have come up with something we think is equally special. We have asked faculty mentors to share their thoughts about their students virtually. Following my remarks, you'll see a video compilation of the advisor tributes. You'll see our PhD candidates first, followed by our master's candidates. You will see all the students live on screen when the video concludes, after which President Goodwin will confer their degrees and deliver his charge to them. There will be a formal in-person hooding ceremony at a safer, more appropriate time. A few students were unable to participate today, but they deserve our hearty congratulations as much as those who were able to participate. Their names are listed in the program following today's participants. They include PhD candidate Gregory Ziegler, who worked with Dr. Mario Tamburi, and master's candidates Zachary Gotthard, who worked with Laura Harris, Thomas Butler, who worked with Raleigh Hood, and Samantha Gleick, who worked with Patricia Blibbert. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the UMCES graduates of 2020.
My name is Matt Fitzpatrick, and it is my pleasure to say a few words about Dr. Andy Gowerty. Andy began work in my lab in September of 2014, and he was my first ever PhD student. And so what did Andy work on for his dissertation? Well, you may have noticed that the world has changed a lot recently. Diseases are spreading, climate is changing, species are threatened with extinction. What Andy was interested in is how we can use information on genetics to better inform how species respond to environmental change. He worked on a species of tree called balsam poplar that happens to grow in amazing landscapes like the one you see behind me. And so what Andy was interested in is how we can use genetic information in combination with statistical models to make better predictions about how forests respond to climate change. Andy was a wonderful student. He came in as a great writer, a very deep thinker about quantitative methods, and he was a true pleasure to work with. And not just because he was my first PhD student, but he will always be very special to me for the amazing work he did. And I wasn't the only one to notice his talents. He was very quickly hired by a very good lab at the University of British Columbia to start a postdoc. And so best of luck to you, Andy. I'm very excited to see where you go in the future and see the amazing work that you produce.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rosemary Jagus, Dr. Amar Hanif's mentor. Amar worked on the diet and stomach microbiota of juvenile Gulf menhaden using a DNA metabarcoding approach. Dr. Alan Place was his co-mentor. Amar is a success story of the NOAA EPP-funded Living Marine Resources Cooperative Science Center and was also supported by Maryland Sea Grant. He started as an undergraduate intern, then became an LMR CSC master's student with Dr. Eric Schott. Amar married Venice and his family doubled in size. Then somehow, while working on his PhD, he managed to grow his family even more. Amar received a Knauss Marine Policy Fellowship and was posted to the Monitoring and Assessment branch of NCOS in Silver Spring. He used his expertise in DNA metabarcoding to look at the gill microbiota and diet of dracynid mussels in the Great Lakes. Amar's career aims are to work as a molecular ecologist and advocate for environmental justice. We congratulate him today, as well as all his family.
Okay, so I wanted to say a few words about Dr. Katie Hornick as she graduates from UMCES. So Katie was my first PhD student. She had just spent 2 years in Chile, was fluent in Spanish, and was just really motivated to get going. Her dissertation focused on the population genetics of eastern oyster restoration in the Chesapeake Bay, really focusing on Harris Creek specifically and working directly with the HPL oyster hatchery for a lot of, and really she was interested in how perhaps we could modify these approaches if possible to maximize the success of these programs. So Katie really picked up on the molecular side of things very quickly, very meticulous about her data analysis, rerunning samples many times and analyses many times until she was certain they were correct. And she really began to excel with some of her bioinformatic analyses of the genomic data, which came to us later in the dissertation. And then finally, she took on a really challenging task of developing an individual-based model of oyster population genetics, basically on her own. Katie always maintained her interest in sort of the management and conservation perspective of her work, which I think really set her up well for grant writing during her PhD, and then also in obtaining, after her PhD, a Knauss Fellowship in NOAA, in the National Marine Fisheries Service. And so she really just did a fantastic job. And I'm really looking forward to working with her on the final chapters, and I'm just really excited to see where her career takes her as she brings this really unique set of high-level tools and genetic expertise to her work at NOAA. So congrats, Katie.
Hi, my name is Laura Lapham. I'm a faculty member at the Chesapeake Biological Lab. I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Hadley McIntosh Merchek today. Hadley joined my lab as a PhD student in 2015. Within 3 weeks of starting, she was in the land of the midnight sun, Northwest Territories, Canada, which is behind me now, flying in helicopters, rowing boats, and steering clear of the bears. Her PhD was focused on determining the source and fate of methane through Arctic lakes. To do this, she generated the first continuous record of methane concentrations and stable carbon isotopes in the water of Arctic lakes through the winter period. Hadley was very successful in her work over the years since she was so dedicated, so inquisitive, and so very organized. From putting together the plan for her research, carrying out lab analyses, to applying for additional funding, I always knew Hadley would follow through. In fact, she secured over $20,000 in additional funds for her work. Hadley is very thoughtful, grounded, and a really great person to be around. I know she will continue to do amazing things in her future. I wish you the best of luck, Dr. McIntosh Merchek.
My name is Dr. Laura Harris, and I'm so excited to celebrate my student, Dr. Amy Neely's graduation. Amy completed her PhD while simultaneously working full-time in the Ocean Color Laboratory at NASA. This is an amazing accomplishment and was only possible because of her discipline and hard work. Amy has already published 2 papers from her dissertation. The first rigorously examined laboratory and field-based approaches for measuring particle light absorption, an important ocean color characteristic needed for remote sensing. The second paper documented changes in phytoplankton community as a result of declining sea ice. On a personal note, this is the first paper I've been on with all women co-authors. Her research also used remote sensing reflectance data to document changes in the Chukchi Sea ecosystem. Finally, I just want to say what a pleasure it has been to work with Amy. She's an incredible professional. We can all learn from her grit and resilience, and I'm just happy that I got to work with her. Best of luck, Amy, and congratulations.
Congratulations, Dr. Wenfei Li. It has been a true pleasure to have Wenfei as a student. She's curious, smart, hardworking, always striving for the best. It was easy to spot her talent on her application to the UMCES program. She's one of the first few students to have received UMCES Presidential Fellowship. When she arrived, she immediately told me she wanted to work on challenging interdisciplinary problems. For her thesis, she was investigating how eutrophication, nutrient management, and climate change affect hypoxia in Chesapeake Bay. On my last account, she has authored or co-authored 7 papers, with 3 other papers under review. She has been incredibly productive. Wenfei is very passionate about applying science to solve environmental problems. She's one of the 2 international students who were selected with Knauss Fellows last year. Now she works at NOAA Climate Office. Wenfei, congratulations on your outstanding achievement. I expect to hear many good things from you.
I am extremely happy to introduce Dr. Catherine Wencheng Liu Slater. Together with her committee, I want to extend deep congratulations to Catherine on the completion of her PhD, provocatively titled Surviving the Dead Zone, Interactions Among Jellyfish, Copepods, and Fish in the Chesapeake Bay. This work combined field observations, shipboard experiments, and numerical modeling to tease out the effects of increasing temperature and decreasing oxygen on the trophic interactions in the Chesapeake Bay. Her work showed that as the severity of low oxygen increased, so did predation rates on copepods by both jellyfish and anchovies, which caused behavioral changes in copepods as they made trade-offs between being eaten and suffocating. On top of her research and classes, during her time as a UMCES student, Catherine was also an International Environmental Partnership Fellow at EPA, a John A. Knauss Marine Policy Fellow at NOAA, and had a full-time job with the Maryland Department of the Environment. Currently, she's employed by NOAA Fisheries. In the midst of all this, she got married and then became a mother. Congratulations, Catherine. This PhD is well earned, and it's been my honor and privilege to have been your advisor and to be your colleague.
I'm very pleased to be able to introduce Vanessa Vargas Wen. I'm Bill Dennison, Vanessa's PhD advisor, and along with her committee of social and natural scientists, we couldn't be happier that Vanessa will receive the first PhD awarded under the Environment and Society Foundation in the UMCES program. Vanessa was an exemplary graduate student. She served as teaching assistant for the inaugural Environment and Society Foundation course. She was active in 3 issue study groups, producing a suite of science communication products. By integrating social and natural science approaches, Vanessa became a thought leader for our Integration and Application Network. Her dissertation focused on 2 iconic American watersheds, the Mississippi River and the Chesapeake Bay. She articulated a future vision for Chesapeake Bay that will guide us well into the future. Vanessa even found time during her PhD to marry Tong Wen. Vanessa's next challenge will be as project coordinator for an international collaboration that she helped to formulate. In conclusions, congratulations, Dr. Vanessa.
It is my great pleasure to introduce Ms. Stephanie Barletta, who is celebrating her master's degree in environmental science from the UMCES program today. Stephanie entered the UMCES program in fall of 2015, joining a multi-PI study on the fate of nutrients and sediments from behind Conowingo Dam at the head of Chesapeake Bay. She took a leave of absence in 2018 to 2019, but worked her way back and finished a fine piece of research this spring. I am very proud of her accomplishments, and I feel privileged to have acted as her advisor. The other members of her committee were Dr. Cindy Palinkas and Dr. Grace Massey. Stephanie's research focused on the characteristics and fate of suspended sediments exiting Conowingo Dam and flowing downstream in the surface layer of the bay. She specifically looked at the sizes and settling speeds of sediment particles at the dam, working from a lab buried inside its base. She also looked at relationships between river flow, sediment loads from the dam, and particle concentrations and characteristics downstream. Her work represents a significant contribution to both science and management. Congratulations and best wishes for your future success, Stephanie. We'll miss you, and we'll miss Chio as well.
I'm excited to celebrate Nicole's graduation today and the year's worth of big achievements that it accompanies. Nicole is my first student, and I challenged her with a project that was focused on numerical modeling, a challenge she took head on. She devised a series of idealized numerical model experiments that quantified how altered timing of nutrient inputs interacts with future warming to influence hypoxia in estuaries. Her findings identified that while warming has a dominant influence on oxygen depletion, that seasonal shifts in the timing of nutrient inputs also have significant impacts. She concluded that climate change effects on estuaries might be realized as altered annual cycles, as opposed simply to overall mean increases or declines. Shortly after defending, Nicole was offered her current position of watershed restoration educator for both St. Mary's and Calvert counties. Here she leads a public outreach and education effort for stormwater management and watershed sciences. Almost simultaneously, she gave birth to her first child and embarked on the adventure of parenthood. For all of these accomplishments, I congratulate you, Nicole. Keep in touch and good luck.
Hello, I'm Cindy Palinkis at UMCES Horn Point Lab, and it is my great pleasure to congratulate Matt Biddle on his Master's of Science degree. As his picture suggests, Matt is an avid surfer who doesn't shy away from the chilly mid-Atlantic ocean waters. Larry Sanford and I co-advised Matt on his thesis, for which he applied a unique modeling tool to address questions about how the presence of submerged aquatic vegetation, or SAV, impacts sediment dynamics in the upper Chesapeake Bay, especially during storms like Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee. Matt found that both the characteristics and timing of events ultimately determine the resulting sediment dynamics, and that SAV play an important role in modulating sediment transport to the rest of the bay. These results are critical for improving sediment management throughout the entire bay. Matt was a part-time student balancing a full-time job, initially at NOAA and now at the USGS in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, specializing in data management. While completing his thesis, he also became the father of a beautiful and rambunctious son. Larry and I feel lucky to have played a role in his scientific career and look forward to his many accomplishments to come. Congratulations, Matt.
It's my pleasure to congratulate Drew Hobbs today as he becomes a Master of Science. While I don't have enough time to fully describe Drew's achievements, let me cover some of the highlights. Drew's thesis involved the successful development of a new measurement technique for nitrous oxide in water samples, one that avoids the use of toxic preservatives and saves sample processing time. Drew then applied this technique to make a comprehensive series of nitrous oxide measurements across a variety of environments in Chesapeake Bay and its tributaries. These measurements not only filled in key gaps in our understanding of the nitrogen cycle, but also identified the Chesapeake as a frequent source of this potent greenhouse gas to the atmosphere. Drew acquired his own funding support from Maryland Sea Grant and the Explorers Club of Washington, D.C. to finance much of his lab and fieldwork. Like any great student, we couldn't let him go, and he's begun his PhD research under the advisement of Laura Lapham and Ryan Woodland at CBL, studying another potent greenhouse gas, methane. I'm lucky to continue to work with Drew on this new path. Congratulations.
Hello, I'm delighted to tell you a bit about Ellie and our achievements here at UMCES. Ellie's watchword is integrity. Integrity is multidimensional, self-reliance, tough as nails effort, keeping your own counsel. In Ellie's case, I came to realize also meant being your own most stringent evaluator. I know this can paralyze, can cause one to tinker and put up barricades, but not so Ellie, whose integrity served as an accelerant, catalyzing her graduate training into a prodigious master's thesis. An early spark in learning computer R coding, Ellie was off and running. A community of dozens of moving ecologists across the Atlantic region, and Ellie became a key data sharing hub, sending millions of data records. I taught Ellie how to write. She found her voice and she writes beautifully. Ellie has just started at the partnership with Delaware Estuarial Leaner and more self-reliant version of the Chesapeake Bay program. We'll miss her, but I look forward to becoming an avid fan as she achieves early career successes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Cornell from the Horn Point Laboratory. It is with great pleasure that I introduce Jessie Todd Long for her master's graduation. Jessie came to Horn Point Laboratory after her undergraduate environmental science degree at Salisbury University. Partway through her master's degree work, she asked me to become her graduate advisor. I'm really happy I said yes. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with her on her thesis work. Oyster aquaculture in Maryland is growing fast, and science-based applied studies are helpful to the growth and success of the industry. Jessie's work involved experimental bottom manipulations prior to on-bottom planting of spat on shell. She evaluated both the survival and growth of oysters over the course of 2 years and showed that sediment modifications were overshadowed by the intrinsic character of the sediment in her experimental plots. Her quantitative study was unique in terms of experimental design and value to identifying sites for aquaculture. Jessie is a native of Crisfield and will be staying in the Salisbury area. It is to Delmarva's benefit that she will be using her talents to provide environmental expertise into the future. She is a very talented young scientist, and I wish her well in her new job.
We are very pleased to introduce Alana Todd Rodriguez. I'm Michael Paoliso, Alana's co-advisor.
And I'm Bill Dennison, Alana's co-advisor.
Along with Jen Schaffer, who is also on Alana's committee, we couldn't be happier that Alana will receive the first master's awarded under the Environment and Society Foundation in the MEES program.
Alana excelled in her courses, often invoking her Florida roots. She provided a unique perspective and made interesting connections.
For her thesis, Alana did a deep dive into co-production of knowledge literature, the process that integrates different types of knowledge from a diversity of people.
Alana's thesis took a global perspective, and we discovered that she has a real eye for science visualization.
We trust that Alana will continue to strive to climb intellectual mountains and apply herself to the betterment of society. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Alana.
Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to remark on Caroline and her achievements. Caroline is first and foremost undaunted. She seeks an academic career, and I can think of no better indicator of success than the fearless intellectual pursuit of new knowledge. We faculty are sometimes wont to send our students off on half-baked ideas in uncharted waters, and I've exposed Caroline to a few of these. Caroline, how about looking at tropical storms as disturbance regimes through the lens of oceanography? Caroline sallies forth only to win praise from our preeminent oceanographer, Professor Ming Li, for her training in pursuit of this in our thesis. Caroline, let's learn more about how black sea bass respond to noises, but we don't know anything about it. Maybe we can gain insights by looking at the world's literature on fish hearing. Caroline just produced the first ever quantitative analysis that's now published, looking at that literature and winning praise from the world's preeminent authority on fish hearing. In these pursuits, Caroline was free and undaunted to approach them naively, on her own, without connections, without years of training. I think this is a lesson for us all that we may claim to be authorities, but in so doing, we have to recognize that we are students and should be undaunted by the many discoveries that lay ahead. Caroline is a Knauss Fellow. Very pleased to watch her succeed in her early career, and it's been my pleasure to interact with you.
Congratulations to the class of 2020. It's obvious you guys have all found the chat feature. I'm really pleased to see hundreds of remarks coming through. Now I would like to invite all of the graduates onto the screen at once, including the following academic officers: President Goodwin, Vice Chancellor Boffman, Vice President Larry Sanford, and Director Tim Canty. It's going to take a moment for, on the production side, to pull together all of those individuals onto the screen. So just bear with us while we do this. All right, I got the hand signal, and all 20 graduates are up. So now President Goodwin will now give a charge and confer the degrees to the graduates. President Goodwin.
Thank you, Dave. And it is truly inspiring to see the face of the future of environmental leadership. Simply put, you are the smartest and best educated generation the world has known. But within this generation, you now have a special identity that will remain with you for the rest of your career. You graduated during the great pandemic of 2020. You have demonstrated resilience and determination. You have overcome adversity. You have completed through telework. And you have done all of this defending your thesis virtually. But you've done this under the situation of caring for family, friends, and neighbors. And perhaps the most challenging has been your concern for family and friends in other cities, other states, and even in other countries. But judging by the defenses which we've seen over the last few weeks, you have done this in style, often attracting global audiences. People often say hope is not a strategy, and they are right, but not because hope alone implies that there is no means to an end. Hope is more important than strategy because it implies a vision, something to aspire to. You know what you want to achieve and where you are going. It implies that if we work together and we remember how to dialogue, how to engage others with differing opinions and find common solutions, we can make a difference. And as you know, in the contentious points around your personal research, or through observing national and international issues, it is easy to block or delay innovative ideas. It is much harder to build the coalition that results in lasting change for the public good. You graduate today from one of the most elite research universities for environmental science in the world. You have learned not just excellence in your chosen academic field, but you have also learned how to communicate your science to different audiences. And thank you, Lisa Palmer, for stressing this in that wonderful keynote address. There has never been a time in history when independent and unbiased science has been more important to inform the actions that determines our societal well-being. Many of you have demonstrated a deep understanding and commitment to environment and social justice. You have chosen the field of environmental science because either your passion is to ensure the quality of our environment for future generations, or because of your interest in what we can learn from or derive from nature for the benefit of society, whether this is new medicines, clean energy sources, sustainable and low impact food sources, or protecting food webs and biodiversity. As you close this chapter of your life, commencement commences the next step in your career. You are joining a small but elite band of MEES and UMCES graduates, all of whom have rapid career trajectories. Thank you for your contributions to the UMCES family while you have been here. You will be missed, but we will always be here for you. We hope that today commences a lifelong connection to your major professors and to UMCES. And we are excited to see where you go and what will be your contribution to creating a better world.
Some people have different views depending upon what kind of system they're using. And apparently Vanessa has come up. So I'm sorry for interrupting. Peter, please go ahead.
Not at all, Dave. That is most important. Sorry about that, Vanessa. So we now come to the conferral of degrees. This is going to be done virtually, and we can see all the graduates on the screen, but please hold your applause until after the conferral of both degrees, and then we'll all make some noise. The Master of Science and Doctor of Philosophy degrees are awarded jointly by the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science and the University of Maryland College Park. So for our doctoral students, by the power vested in me by the Board of Regents of the University System of Maryland, and on the recommendation of the faculty that you have met the high standards and all the necessary requirements, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Master's students, by the power vested in me by the Board of Regents of the University System of Maryland, and on the recommendation of the faculty that you have met the high standards and all the requirements, I confer upon you the degree of Masters of Science. So now we can all unmute and let's make some noise. Congratulations, the class of 2020.
That is what I call a
Now, if we could, there's only one last thing. On behalf of UMCES, we look forward to being able to personally congratulate each and every one of the graduates and awardees. Until that time, we hope that you remain safe and healthy. At the conclusion, we have a tradition at UMCES. At its conclusion, we generally have a champagne toast. But since we can't do that this year, we ask everyone to join Dr. Dave Secor. And this concludes today's program. Dave.
I think they're going to show us one.
You heard it. That's nice.
Oh my.
You don't hear the music.
It's better.
Aww.
I think it's better than the traditional.
The swim.
There's no music.
Go, Dave.
It's so much better because there's no music.
Professor Secor set a new standard for UMCES. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.